this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. Navigating through the clutter in my mind, I do this all the time. Think about all you've done, it's a journey. Just know that you deserve it. Look ahead and keep on walking, walking towards the light. Oh yeah, stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. Help me find the happy side of me, of me. Help me find the stronger part of me, of me. Turn around, give yourself the permission. Just know that you deserve it. But sometimes I get scared and dismissive. Don't wanna be this way. Don't wanna be this way, yeah. Don't you worry. Take your time, take it slowly. No, don't give in so easily. Yeah, you deserve to be free, yeah. Stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. It's never easy feeling like you're so alone, and your heart feels like a stone. Think about it night and day, wondering if you'll be okay. I'm here in this place once again, suffocating. It's drowning me too deep. I know I've gotta stop this, oh yeah. Don't you worry, take your time, take it slowly. No, don't give in so easily. Yeah, you deserve to be free, yeah. Stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. Navigating through the clutter in my mind, I do this all the time. Think about all you've done, it's a journey. Just know that you deserve it. Look ahead and keep on walking, walking towards the light. Oh yeah, stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubt.
Hello everybody, a very good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Labour Fest 2021. So before I comment further, just to let you know that today's session is recorded so that the participants can actually view it at a later time after this whole Beyond the Labour Fest itself. So let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony Yeo. I'm the counsellor from the Marseille Polytechnic. And I'm really thankful that you'll take this precious afternoon to come and attend this event itself. And today, my talk will be on managing performance anxiety, be it whether in work, in school, or even, in sports itself. All right, just let me show the slides. Okay, probably if you're looking at the slide right now, you're thinking that, hey, I'm listing all this credential up there. Well, it's actually not so much to boast or how intellectual I am, acquiring all this credential and qualification. But there's a story behind it I will share with you more later on. Okay, in the previous 2019 itself, Temasek Poly was also invited for the Beyond Labour Fest Festival. And during that year, we had the opportunity to showcase, especially if you're looking on screen right now, that's me, and we are doing the sand tray therapy itself program. This is one of the therapeutic model that we use it in our school. Actually, this year, because of the COVID-19 situation itself, if not, I would have brought some of my sand tray onto public and for experiential experience, and participants would be able to experiment with it. So hopefully moving forward in the next 1-2 years, when the whole COVID-19 situation is better managed, then the next festival we could bring this sand tray thing to all the participants. Yeah. So why talk about performance anxiety? So earlier on, you look at the previous slide that I did put on my qualifications, the journey itself. Performance anxiety is inevitably in the midst of us. We all experience it in one way or another. And I want to talk about this particular topic because it's a topic that is very, very close to my heart. All right. You may be thinking that, hey, I'm probably very intellectual while accumulating all this credential. No. I have managed my anxiety. I faced performance anxiety in my earlier years of education and growing up. For those of you who were in the 70s and the 80s, let me share a little bit more about my personal journey itself. Those who are in the 70s, you remember in our primary school days, we will have those in the extended stream. Well, I'm not ashamed to tell you I'm from one of those extended stream. I'm from primary 8. So those days, even, people, the anxiety itself comes not just from friends, but also as well from friends, relatives, classmates, teachers. They say, oh no, you studied 8 years in primary school. What happened? Oh, then it's like, don't know what to say. And then often than not, when we go to, example, Chinese New Year visitation, your relative will ask you, oh, so you're number one in class. You're number one in whole school. The ranking thing. How well are you doing in the academic? And so that itself also have an added pressure, okay? Subconsciously inside us, feeling it that, hey, there's this pressure wanting to perform. So it's just not the innate, but we are experiencing it from the society itself. And then the pressure coming, your friend asks you, so, okay, after primary 8, what happened? What are you going to do? In my mind itself, I just want to get on to secondary school. And we know that a lot of students from primary 8, they are not able to get on to secondary school. They go to the VITB, which is now the ITE, Institute of Technical Education. The old name is VITB itself. And the stigma with VITB was really, really high even at our era in the 70s, in the 80s. And of course, being primary 8 academically, we're not inclined. I'm not the intellectual, and I went on to the N-level stream. And so people would still also criticize, hey, you're in N-level. So how? You're not clever, kind of like a bit slow. And then I have named people calling you stupid, like you cannot make it. And that's fine. And so along the years, struggled with this issue, trying to perform. At Sec 2, people would try to strive to wanting to aim to go into the express stream. And that is crazy those years. It's also very competitive. You're talking about in the 80s itself. And from N-level itself going on to Sec 5, that's another hurdle because you need to meet a certain requirement. My time was below 10 points for 3 subjects in order to go into Sec 5. No, I didn't make it to Sec 5 as well. Just missed by 1 point. I didn't get to do O-level. And so that is another flaw. And then seeing my friends going on to do their O-levels, going to the polys, going to JC itself, and I very much left on my own. And my teacher said, perhaps you're better off going back to VITB itself. So I went. I went to the ITE. Again, academically, I wasn't inclined. My maths was no good. Engineering subject was really tedious. And by the time I know it, finished part one, I couldn't make it. I dropped out of VI. And then I went on to work. I came to NS. After NS itself, I'm so blessed that I've met fantastic people around me, coaches, mentors, counselors, and that's where I started, all right, to find my inner strength, because this individual, my mentor, my coaches, they were able to unleash the potential inside me, knowing that, hey, you don't only have this set skills, you also have other skills that you can look into, that you can explore, and you can further develop. And so battling this performance anxiety itself, not just from primary school, secondary school, but way back even my early adulthood itself. And so this is very, very real, this topic. So if we can better manage our stresses, our anxiety well, able to regulate it, then it will not escalate to the next level. Okay, it will not escalate to the next level of having a mental health issue. And so that is why I want to talk about managing performance anxiety today. So, very famous psychiatrist Dr. William Glasser, who is also the founder for choice theory and reality therapy itself, and he said that our total behavior is chosen, but we have direct control, okay, over only our thinking and our behavior component itself. Now, since the COVID-19 pandemic itself started, there has been an explosion of resources, talk, webinar on how to manage stresses, anxiety, mainly on the behavioral side. Okay, providing you with strategies that are really dime a dozen of resources that you can find on internet itself. But on today's talk, I want to specifically just focus on our thinking part, the cognitive approach part. So sharing with you not just from my own personal journey, but as well as from the theory, from clinical experiences from the student who I've encountered and worked with, and how they can shift this thinking itself. So as we all know, performance anxiety is essentially we choke under the pressure itself. We're facing certain uncertainty, there's an existential threat itself that's in front of us. And that's how we define the performance anxiety itself. So it's a level escalating up from stress. So we do feel stress and it's okay. But if our stressor is not well managed, then it escalates to the next level where sometimes we have this great anxiety inside us. But it's okay to have some anxiety in us because it gives us that a little bit of that adrenaline rush to perform our tasks. Yeah, and that is okay. But too much of it, and if we are not managing properly, then that is no good because then our mental health will be affected. And if we are not well managed, it may escalate into mental health condition. For example, some people may have anxiety disorder example. And we all know that with performance anxiety, we feel very anxious. You see a lot of symptoms in you. We're talking about feeling dizziness, a rapid heartbeat, trembling, sweating, hypertension, even shortness of breath. Now, there are a lot of resources out there touching and dealing practical steps on how to deal with this. For example, rapid heartbeat, trembling, hypertension. which I will not go into it today. All right. If I have time later, maybe I'll revisit this and give you some tips how to manage. But right now, there's really a lot of coping strategies that deal with this area. One example is mindfulness practice, which you can see right now. There's blooming all over the world talking on mindfulness itself. But no worries, no, I'm not talking about mindfulness today. So what are some of the performance anxiety causes? All right, a lot of time is the judgment, the fear of our own failure itself. Why? And because we also have this negative social evaluation. Our friends, earlier I talked about family members, relative, well, they judges us based on performance. How good are you? Where you are now? Which level are you at? And so internally, psychologically, we feel this judgment. We feel that our self-esteem, it's like being swept under a blanket. That's what happened to me, those early days. I don't know where's my self-esteem. It's like, oh, where is it? So the fear of negative social evaluation is so great that this anxiety arises in us. For the athletes, sometimes the fear of physical harm, of injury, may impede them, from further develop their potential. They might have sustained an injury, they go on to the next competition, and the anxiety build up because the athlete might be talking to themselves, hey, I'm doing this performance again, I'm repeating this particular example, style itself, will I get injured? And so that is a rumination inside their mind, thinking about it, and which causes the anxiety. Which is brought on to the second point, brings to the second point, the fear of repeating the same mistake again. Yeah, so you might think that, so what's wrong repeating the same mistake again? Because the fear of judgment also brings about the shame in us. You feel so shameful that you don't know where to hide your face. And when we move on to the next area is situation ambiguity. You may have prepared for your exam, well thought through, read through preparation, and suddenly, when you open the paper, hey, you will say to yourself, hey, my lecturer didn't taught me in class, this is totally something new. Oh dear, what am I supposed to do with it? I remember an incident when I was taking a classical music test itself, and my music teacher was telling me that, oh, you just only need to learn, it was a sight reading. So for those of you who are not familiar with music, so sight reading, we're supposed to read the musical notes. And she said that, oh, you're only supposed to read just one sentence. So I was with the Associate Board of the Royal School of Music, took the level 1 exam itself, grade 1. And so on the day of exam, I realized that when the examiner gave it to me in terms of the sight reading, it was a whole page of sight reading. I was like, and so there was performance anxiety in me. I prepared so much, I did a lot of mental rehearsal, but that is something not within my control. I couldn't handle it. And there were times where I was doing my singing and I had to restart a few times because suddenly I forgot my lyrics itself. So situation ambiguity sometimes can just hit us no matter how well we prepare. But if we can manage the fundamental of controlling our emotion, and then we can better manage the whole performance or the task that we will be executing. Next is the disruption of a well-learned routine. So you might have learned something so well, and you learn so well, you're afraid that what happens, something goes wrong. So what if suddenly today here I'm talking to you and then the whole internet or my slides shut down? And so I have to be able to just to talk to you. So of course touch wood, it won't happen. But internally, inside here, I would have already prepared what I wanted to say, and I'll still continue to deliver because I'm able to manage this performance anxiety part. The next one, the last one I'm going to talk about will be neurotic perfectionism. Some people think that neurotic perfectionism itself is a psychological disorder or some illness. No, today I want to address this myth. It's not. It's basically a personality trait itself. So you might have heard of type A personality, type B personality. So those who have perfectionism itself, they fall under the type A. Me, myself, I'm type B. Yeah, very relaxed itself. So that is why now I understand that, hey, why those early years I've gone through a lot of performance anxiety myself, a lot of stressor, because I'm a type B trait. And one of the type B trait is that we are a bit slow, we tend to procrastinate, sometimes a bit lazy, and this is really, really so true. And so from my early 20s, I start to kind of like wake up, and start to change my trait a little bit. No, I'm still type B, I didn't change to type A, but I just practice more habitual, be more intentional, be more hardworking. And that is, I manage to overcome my own deficiency. Yeah, you may not be academically inclined, so intellectual, but if you are hardworking, you are consistent, you still can produce the results. Of course, you must be able to manage your expectation well. I'll touch on that later on. But I want to talk a little bit more on this perfectionism thing. So a type A healthy perfectionist, all right, often they're not, they challenge themselves by setting high goals and standards, all right? And if they were to fail, then they will learn from their failure, but they stay engaged in the activity. They still can perform very well itself. And that is okay. It's perfectly fine for anyone who wanting to be perfect. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is how we can regulate the emotion inside us. Okay, being able to cope with this whole performance. And then the other group, the more adaptive perfectionists. So they tend to set very extremely high and unrealistic goals because they are not in touch with the feeling itself, their awareness is not there. And what happens when they meet with failure? They become so obsessed with it. With goals, obsessed with their goals, with their increased effort, and they want to avoid activity altogether. They don't want to socialize with friends. They just want to be with themselves and just focus on their tasks. And if that is not managed properly, then it escalates to mental health issue. And so you ask then, so if is perfectionism on the rise? In a 2017 study itself, in fact, the researcher actually, examined perfectionism among college students in the United States, in Canada, and the UK itself. And over the past 3 decades, they found that there are 3 types of perfectionisms that have increased among the recent generation of students. So one aspect is the self-orientated perfectionism. These are individuals attached with irrational importance to being perfect. They hold unrealistic expectation of themselves and are punitive in their self-evaluation. But what I wanted to emphasize is it's not exactly their fault, or our fault to having very high unrealistic expectation. A lot of time is because of how we are being brought up by pressure from the society, from parents, and that kind of create the needs of really to perform very well, getting into a top school, top colleges. And then what happens when you don't meet that? So it's associated with a lot of negative psychological reactions to life stresses, failure, and eventually some of these individuals would be diagnosed with clinical depressions or anorexia nervosa and even have suicidal ideation itself. Because the goals were not realistic. Then the second category itself, we're looking at the socially prescribed perfectionism. So individuals believe that our social context is excessively demanding and that other judges judge us so harshly and that we must constantly display the perfection to secure the approval. I have encountered students from top schools, and they come and share with me. They talk about how stressed they are, how anxious they are when student compares about grades. And there were students talking about, hey, if I don't meet that required grades itself, I might not go, for example, university, because the indicative GPA for universities for certain course is really, really high. You're talking about 3.7, 3.8. And so they feel very, very pressurized that, hey, what happened if I can't go into our local uni? Because they say, some of them say that my families are not rich enough to get me into private university or overseas universities. Then how? So I'm thankful that the government is really aware of this area and they have talked to the various autonomous universities, and in the coming years they will be increasing more lots opening for them, so that more students can get in of the particular choice of course. So it's very, very real, okay, this demanding, this prescribed perfectionism wanting to get a certain grade. It's very, very real. So what happens? So students were filled with anxiety, depressive symptoms, suicidal ideations, and then the greater degrees that those with self-direct perfectionism itself. And then the last one we want to look at it will be the others-orientated perfectionism. These, individuals impose unrealistic standards on those around them and evaluates others critically. So this is early on I referred to as our friends, our relatives, teachers, mentor, whoever, parents. So sometimes we impose unrealistic expectation on those individuals around us. So when the environment itself, which is so competitive, and an individual couldn't manage their anxiety itself, what happens? They fumbles. And so for some, eventually they either quit their schools, quit their work, quit their sports, and it's very conflictual in the family itself. Because they were not in the nurturing environment. Because many individuals would thrive in that nurturing environment. So I'm blessed. I was in that nurturing environment over my later adult or early adult growing years, that I can thrive. But I'm not so sure whether in my early years in primary school, the anxiety was so great that, I'm always failing my maths itself. Yeah, I did not pass my maths at PSLE. And every time I finish a maths test or exam paper, I hesitate to go back home. Because I know for sure my mom will be waiting, with a cane. Because if I don't pass, sure get caning. There's no such thing as you don't pass, you don't get caning. And so the anxiety itself is like, okay, I'll hang on as late as possible. I loiter around. I don't go back home. And so sometimes when others instill this certain expectation on us that we are not able to match that level, it's really, really difficult to cope. And so, it brings me to the next area, the root cause itself. I've not checked out this one. I don't know how true, whether did William Shakespeare really talk about this. But in the next slide, I'll talk about Dr. Hans Say, who's founder of stress theory, which concur with Shakespeare. So Shakespeare stated that expectation is the root of all headache, or some people say it's the mother of all headache. And why? Because the expectation itself, if it's not well managed, then it becomes very, very problematic. I remember when I was doing my counseling course, which I specialize in family therapy, and there's one very renowned family therapist by the name of Virginia Satir itself. And so Virginia Satir, in one of her quotes and her theories, she stated that the problem itself is not the problem. Coping is the problem. I repeat that again. The problem itself is not the problem. Coping is the problem. The moment we are not skilled with certain coping skills or the relevant coping skills itself, then it becomes a problem. But if I can cope with whatever task or issue, hey, it's no longer a problem to me. And I can better manage my anxiety itself. And so, as you can see from the slides here, the stress process. In fact, Dr. Hans Selye mentioned that the stress process itself is in this loop, as you can see from, okay, you look at this stimulus part, all right? The first slide, the first column. Is the environment, the situation, the competitive situations that we are in. So we call this the potential stressor. So we encounter the stimulus, the potential stressor, and next is the appraiser of the situation, right here, our cognitive part. How do we assess it? Do we assess that it's our personal state and situation, that is the primary? And then the secondary is the perceived coping resources, that is us, our perceived. Are we able to handle it? And so if we are able to handle it, then it goes down to the arrow, as you can see, no stress response. It's a balance. It's awesome because it's only when we are in that state of relaxed in our mind, our body, then we are able to really to perform well. Now, what happens if our own assessment, our own appraisal of a situation is not well managed? We go on to the next level whereby our responses, which is imbalance. So whether in a distress state or in an anxiety state, we find it hard to cope. And so in this instance where individual might encounter a really panic, anxiety state, then active coping strategy in terms of the cognitive behavior intervention will need to come in to help the individual to stabilize, to balance, okay, bring back the equilibrium itself. Then we're able to cope better. And so, what is important here is the cognitive aspect. There's been a lot of talk on the physical part, the behavior part, the strategy parts, the mindfulness I'm talking about. But I think a lot of time, a lot of individuals, when we are so high stress up in terms of performance anxiety, we've really connect the part with our own thoughts, our inner acceptance. Okay? It needs a really great paradigm shift. It cannot just like you self-talk yourself, it's all right, it's okay, and it's over. No. It needs to be regularly fit into your mind, constantly doing a self-talk, constantly talking to yourself, accepting certain events, certain outcome. Only then it will bring about that peace in you. And so the first step towards high performance and even our own productivity of managing our performance anxiety itself is clarity of expectations. What do you expect? What do you expect of yourself? What do you expect of others? What about in school? Your own expectation of your performance, your work, or even athlete, sports itself. Yeah, one classical example is a recent, if you remember our Olympic swimmer Joseph Schooling himself, who did not manage to achieve or even retain his title of being the gold medalist in the 100-meter butterfly itself. And so when he came back, there was a lot of negative comments from the netizen itself. And that is really unfair because at that level, that elite level, they're already having a lot of stress inside them. But yet, when coming back to Singapore, they have this added stress, the criticism from us who are not aware of their performance level. And we start to criticize them and say that, hey, why you're not performing at the level where you're supposed to perform? And so can you imagine how much stress itself or the anxiety itself, even when coming back to Singapore, that Joseph Schooling would even have to face? Is it his fault of not being able to retain? No, we are not forgetting that, as you age and as the sports progresses, there will always be younger people better than us, especially in terms of the physiological part, younger, stamina better. Of course, this is not to say the older ones are not as good. There are some instances whereby the older ones who are as good as well. But here what I wanted to stress is the important that, hey, we do not want to criticize, okay, to devalue people's effort. And so this is the external stressor that we place on them. So what do you expect of yourself and others? And if you are parents, what do you expect of your children? You cannot compare, those days my time is like that and it should be easy. I've heard parents complaining that poly life is so easy. My time in poly was so easy. Why is it so stressful for you now? We have evolved. The courses are really difficult now. And we cannot compare between JCs and poly because one is an orange, one apple is totally two different things. And both have equal immense pressure that they are facing itself. And so sometimes if we can manage our expectation, not just on ourselves, on others as well, then when the individual are in that nurturing environment, more relaxed environment, that is where you thrive, the potential will come out. And so our own expectation shape and blend our reality. So they change our life emotionally and physically as well. So what is expected shapes what happens. So I'm just one living example, having a nurturing environment. I know how to set my expectation. I excel, I do well. And so it is okay. Okay, nobody is perfect, and it's perfectly okay to make mistake. It's okay not to be perfect at all. Because if we always have that pressure of wanting to have a certain level of perfectionism, or the expectation is so high, and what happens? We'll find it very challenging to manage. So it all starts from here, right up our mind, our thoughts, cognitive part, accepting, manage our expectation, and that's where we can progress. And so this is written by an anonymous writer. It's really fantastic. He talks about my happiness grows in direct proportion to my acceptance and in inverse proportion to my expectations itself. So some of you perhaps will ask me, so moving forward, then how else can I better manage this part of my performance anxiety what I can say to you is a constant reminder. If you have already attended all those mindfulness classes, that is one example that, or rather one strategies that can help you. Okay, a constant reminder of self, and write down, you can even also write down in your book your own expectation. Discuss with your friends, with your family members, whoever, with regards to your goals. So remember earlier slide I talked about clarity of expectation. So if your goals is being clarified, telling your parents, your friends, your bosses, your supervisee, whoever, what is your goal, what you plan to do, then everybody is on the same page. Then you can better manage the outcome itself. Right? So unfortunately today, due to time limit in terms of the athlete, if you're an athlete itself, I would not have room to go in depth into that physical management of that performance itself. That you would have checked with your mental skills coach or sports psychologist. They will have a lot of techniques. But one tips I can give it to you if you're an athlete is just, if you're feeling anxious or whatever, is just do your breathing. Many of you are probably being aware of this technique itself. It's the breathing technique, and at the same time as you're doing your deep breathing technique, you want to focus on a point, okay, or a dot somewhere. You just look at a point, look at breathing, and that will help you to manage that on-site anxiety itself. Of course, there are many, many other strategies which you can find. Yeah. And with that, I have concluded my session, and I want to leave room and time for questions and answer. All right. So this time and space is for you to ask me questions. I'll probably have to look at my computer on my right, and I'll probably answer your questions. All right. Okay. So just give me a second for me to look at the questions. So, all right, so we have a first question coming in itself from the participant. Say, would it be right to say that peak performance is about meeting one's own expectation of performance rather than the expectation of others? Yes, in a way, peak performance is about your own personal best, outdoing your personal best, your PB in shorts. Okay, whether in work, in school, if you're in school, you want to have a better grades, how can you outperform? Having said that, yeah, there will always be expectation from others. Unfortunately, we are in a society whereby, we look at productivity itself. So bosses, coaches, teacher, lecturer will have expectation for us. We have our own KPI to fulfill. So that is why I say early on that it's important to have that clarity of goals, and how can we move the steps, managing up here on your mind, managing the expectation, managing your acceptance level, and so therefore we can pick. All right, I hope I answer your questions. Next one, this is from Muhammad Daniel itself. So very interesting, he talked about what are your suggestions for university students who are preparing for their examination. I'm sure at the different university itself, they would have examination preparation courses, but if it's not, then there are dime and dozen of strategy itself. But what is important to manage your own individual, anxiety in performing exam itself. The only thing you need to do is just to practice, revise, and revise. Because with adequate practice, with adequate revision itself, you would have been mentally well prepared. Sure, on that day itself, exam, you sure have a little bit of adrenaline rush inside, and that is fine. What you don't want is that you totally psych out, and then you can't perform. There are students who, exam paper, they psych out, they panic, they don't know what to do. Their mind went blank. If your mind went blank in that instant, I want to encourage you to just take a few breaths, close your eyes, and relax. And your memory will slowly come back to you. So preparation is the key. You have to manage your time really, really well. Because like me, I mentioned earlier, I'm type B, all right? Procrastinate a lot. And so that in my early years, that's why I wasn't successful. But later on, when I found this strategy, able to put in effort, to allocate time to study, to prepare way in advance. And so when I come sitting for the exam, I say, hey, I'm okay, I'm all right, because I've studied that. I may not be able to 100% to retain all the fact, but I am for sure that I can retain 80%, which is good enough for me to pass. Because I know myself, I'm not like those high IQ, no, I don't. But so I measured my own performance, and so I move on, I pass, I clear, I manage it. No difference. Coming for today, presentation itself, it's not like, oh, you may think that I'm so seasoned, used to presentation, I can just come and. No, it takes hours and hours going through what I want to say, what I want to talk, what I want to rehearse, and hour before going live, mentally up here, I'm still doing a lot of mental imagery, mental rehearsal to go through what I want to say, what I want to do, so that it will be smooth itself. So I hope that's my answer helps your question, which is from Muhammad Daniel itself. All right. Next is from the participant, can you overcome performance anxiety? Yes, definitely you can overcome performance anxiety, because in order to manage performance anxiety itself, as I mentioned, the very first part itself is the cognitive, the paradigm shift. Manage your expectations from the cognitive perspective. Once you've done that, you move on to the behavioral part. The behavior part in terms of that performance itself is your own strategy. What are some steps that you do, that you take to help you to feel more relaxed? What will help you to be better prepared for whatever task that you need to do? So there's a lot, it's very systematic, there's skills that you need to put in place. There's a routine that you need to establish. For example, a routine that if you want to do this thing at a particular place, or maybe you're doing a sports, before you execute it, maybe you shower, you have to do your own prayers, and then you go through your steps. Then you want to look at your shoes, your gears, and stuff like that. If it's academic, revise. If it's workplace, if you are supposed to do a task, then you go through the steps, coupled with the breathing, the behavioral skills. And so with the mind, the thinking, and the behavioral action combined together, and that is where we are able to perform well, okay? To the ability to stay within what I call the performance zone. Yeah? So if you follow me, yeah? So imagine there's an inverted U curve, the arousal and the performance. The greater your arousal, the intensity itself, the performance will go up. Okay, with enough stimulus itself, you'll go up. So you want to manage within this performance zone. And if you can't manage within this performance zone, what happens? It will psych out, it will go down. And that's where you experience a whole lot of anxiety, mental health issues, and you needed intervention from this part to bring you back to that zone. So it's all the little things. So there's a saying, when last time I was studying in sports psychology, I can't remember who said this term. Huh? When you have taken care of all the little details, success will take care of itself. I repeat it again. When you have taken care of all the little details, success will take care of itself. This was shared to me by my sports psychologist, Edgar Tam. So if you all Google his name, you'll be able to find him. So this is something that he shared with me. Yeah. Next questions. Do you have some advice for parents who want to help their children who have high expectation of themselves? As I say, what is important is you as a parent, you need to play that nurturing part. Telling your student, if it's okay, it is okay not to meet your expectation as long as you try your very, very best. It's not easy because sometimes the student itself may not have the awareness in them that, hey, what's the level they could achieve? Because they are thinking about the future, they're thinking about the failure, the shame. So if you can address the shame part, then the student will be able to better manage their own emotion. At the end of the day, it all boils down to the emotion part itself. So strategy, for example, if you find that as a parent you can't help your child, then perhaps it's good to bring your child to talk to a coach, to a teacher, mental health professional, so that the child can better regulate themselves. Because you need skills to how to help to regulate. Next question is that I read somewhere that peak performance is about achieving balance between mental toughness and mental wellness. How does one achieve this balance? You need a lot of rehearsal, not just mental rehearsal, but physical rehearsal itself. Then you can strike this balance. It cannot be one or another. Both needs to go hand in hand. All right? Next question, what are the causes and how can performance anxiety affect an artist and designer? Oh yes, indeed, artists and designer themselves do face a great deal of stressor. We're talking about individual in the performing art industry, in the entertainment industry. Art itself is very subjective, it's not objective stuff. And creativity does not just come as and when you snap your finger and then it comes. Okay, creativity comes at weird time, weird hours, and so that immense pressure itself on the artist, on the performance itself is really, really great. And so what is important is that as artists and designer, you need to find your own way of regulating your own expectation, your own self-care needs. And knowing the expectation itself, then you'll be able to function at your best. But should you at any point find that the anxiety is causing you a lot of great deal of stress, then you need to seek help or find some course to attend to help you to regulate. Because as performance artist, designer, you need a lot of creativity juice. And if your brain, your physical self is not relaxed, you will not be able to function at your best. So like me, if I want to do thinking stuff, I need to go somewhere quiet and nobody kind of disturb me, and that's where I can function. I used to work for a short stint at NAFA as a student counselor, and all the design students would come to me that and they say that they're so stressful and all the things and the creativity that came out is only in the middle of the night. And it's only during the middle of the night that they think best. And why is it so? Because it's a peaceful and quiet environment. And so the essence is that you need to find time, space, peace for yourself so that you can cultivate this creativity itself in you. So it won't affect you as an artist or designer. Yasmin say that I think that the balance question is the real question. It's very hard for type A or perfectionists to find that balance. Perhaps knowing our values, what makes us truly at peace and happy can help. Yeah, that's right. Finding your own balance And that will definitely bring about that peace and happiness, and that you can be truly be a functioning individual. Another question is, if our anxiety is formed by the expectation of social others in our circle, is it okay to exit this circle? Yeah, you could see some people in a job, after a while they find that, okay, I cannot take it anymore, the pressure is too great, I resign. Or there are some people, they find that because of society pressure, then they want to totally shift away from their current job, from their background training, to do something different. So example, individual might be training in law, a lawyer, and then go and take up a different profession such as a chef, a cook. We've seen that a lot, but that is also individual preference itself. And so it's important sometimes we look at our circle, whether is it toxic, is it nurturing? If not, how can we enhance this nurturing environment itself? Next questions. I don't know, is this a question or is a comment? Beside gender reminder to self, how else to cope with perfectionism and failure to meet our own goals? I believe we can tell ourselves that people make mistakes and we should be kinder to ourselves. However, is there a way to minimize this effect of breakdown? The effect itself need constant reminder. Something that you need to do it habitually. As I said before, it's not a one-time thing that you tell yourself it's okay not to fail, it's okay to fail and just move on. No, it doesn't sink in. It's still you will ruminate. But it's a constant feeding to yourself, to your mind, finding a right moment, finding a different context. And once you remind yourself that it's okay, having evaluate all the different circumstances, only then, but you have to also play your part, okay, in the behavioral aspect, whereby taking all the small little steps that is necessary to execute your skills. And only by then would you be able to reduce the performance anxiety. So another questions, how to overcome anxiety if the stress comes from others bowling better than me in the same lane as me? Okay, so this one perhaps sounds like athletes to me. You're probably a bowler. This is for sure, okay? As a competitor, the moment you're on that starting block on that lane, we know that there are always, or rather I'll say there's always be a number one. There's only gold medal, silver and bronze. So black and white, technically look at it, second place, third place is, if you want to dim it, and self-negative thoughts right there, oh, I'm a loser. Because there's only one winner. Right? So in order to overcome the anxiety in you, you know that the other lanes are also people who are better than you. Then your focus is not on others. It should be yourself. So if you remember, look at all the horse races. Sunday I can't remember the term for it. There's this gutter that cover their eyes on the side. So the racehorse can just be focused in one direction and just focus on your own routine. And so if you are a bowler yourself, you look at your lane condition, you look at how you handle your ball, you look at your release, and you just want to focus on that particular aspect. Couple it with your breathing and not to be distracted by the scores or by other athletes around you. Focus on your game, be relaxed, and that is where you can beat your own personal best. Why I talk a lot on sports, because I used to be an athlete myself, a coach. I also work with elite athletes, especially in the Paralympics and Special Olympics itself. And so that is why I say performance anxiety area is one of my interests from my experience, and how to help individual to overcome this anxiety itself. Yeah? Okay, I hope my answers your questions. One last question, okay? Due to the time limit, I have one last question. This is from Johnny. It say, as a parent with anxiety, how to regulate myself better in order to help my child with learning difficulties, as I would not want my child to catch my anxiety. You are so right, Johnny, because our own, as a parent, our own anxiety, often than not, we can spread to a child. They can feel it. Just like my mom was anxious, holding a cane at home. She's so anxious, cane me because I fail my maths. Or even when doing my maths tuition, you sit there, there's a cane beside it. I mean, how can I focus properly when I'm doing my maths and there's a cane, knowing that if you do wrong, you cane me? So yes, parents, not just only parents, but whether you're an educator or you're in a position as a coach that have an influence over student, your child, any athlete, if you can manage your own expectation, ask yourself, where is this coming from? Where is my own anxiousness coming from? Why do I have so much expectation for your child? Is it because of an unfulfilled needs of your own? Is it because of shame? And that is a question you need to ask yourself. And if you find that it's difficult for you to ask yourself this question, then perhaps you can talk to a counselor, you can go to any family service center, social service organization, and talk to the counselor or therapist so that it explore. Maybe there's something deeper inside you. All right? For just the general public itself, then goes back to your own expectation. All right? And once you have that clarity of your own expectation itself, then you can be able to help your child. And if your child do have a learning difficulty itself, don't be afraid to check with the school. A lot of schools have special educational needs officer there, and they are there to help you. So it's a collaboration. So remember, you are not alone, especially as a caregiver, you are not alone. There are help in schools, whether in primary school, secondary school, Institute of Higher Learning Education. They are all SEN officer or behavior and learning allied educator there to support your child. So do seek out their support. All right? So with that, I really thank you, all of you, to take this precious afternoon of yours. I'm sorry I may not be able to answer some of the questions, but perhaps we'll take it on after this talk itself, and we'll answer you maybe individually then. All right? So before I end, I just want to, as you can see the slide on top of me right now, I want to encourage all of you, all right, if you are free after this talk, okay, join us and be a part of this Stop the Stigma social activation. And what you can do is that whether it's yourself, your friends, or family members, you can create your own content, okay, to express your support, this movement, how to support, accept one another, a person in recovery, a person with mental health issue, maybe your own personal journey, your own story. It can be in writing, picture, videos, or any creative medium itself. All right, then you post it on your own social media account, be it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and remember to hashtag stop the stigma itself. And do remember to tag at least 3 friends, okay, to do the same, so to keep the momentum and the movement going. So as you do that and embracing this beyond the labor movement itself, so that our whole society can be more compassionate, can be more kind, be more supportive, and most importantly, creating this nurturing environment for everyone. So with that, thank you so much. Have a good Sunday evening and all the best to whatever that you are doing. Bye.
It's never easy feeling like you're so alone. and your heart feels like a stone. Think about it night and day, wondering if you'll be okay. I'm here in this place once again, suffocating. It's drowning me too deep. I know I've gotta stop this, so yeah, don't you worry. Take your time, take it slowly. No, don't give in so easily. Yeah, you deserve to be free, yeah. Stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. Navigating through the clutter in my mind, I do this all the time. Think about all you've done, it's a journey. Just know that you deserve it. Look ahead and keep on walking, walking towards the light. Oh yeah, stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. Help me find the happy side of me, of me. Help me find the stronger part of me, of me. Turn around, give yourself the permission. Just know that you deserve it. But sometimes I get scared and dismissive. Don't wanna be this way. Don't wanna be this way, yeah. Don't you worry. Take your time, take it slowly. No, don't give in so easily. Yeah, you deserve to be free, yeah. Stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting. No, don't you see, toxicity and worrying has no meaning. I don't wanna be this way. It's never easy, feeling like you're so alone, and your heart feels like a stone. Think about it night and day, wondering if you'll be okay. I'm here in this place once again, suffocating. It's drowning me too deep. I know I've gotta stop this, so yeah, don't you worry. Take your time, take it slowly. No, don't give in so easily. Yeah, you deserve to be free, yeah. Stop this thinking, take a breath, stop your doubting.